Good morning.
Morning, Dr.
Good
Rapp.
to see you. Good morning. We got this.
Morning.
Good to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr.
Good
Rapp.
morning. Good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Woo-woo. Good morning, class. It is so good to see all of you. I can tell you are ready to learn. So we're going to study today. We're going to do a special UnRapped on school funding, but specifically we're going to take a deeper dive into averages.
Oh.
It's going to be great. Before we talk about that deeper dive into averages, though, let's remember what an average is. An average is when you take a set of numbers and you add them together and you divide by the number of values. What about other averages that we see in the world around us?
What about weather temperatures? The weatherman is always talking about averages.
Let's talk about this example for a second when it comes to the weather. Sometimes averaging can give us a little bit of a distorted view of what's happening, for instance, in the state of Texas. For example, the average in Texas is 65 degrees. Does that seem like an accurate representation of temperatures in Texas?
No, it's always hot in Texas. It feels like it's 100 all summer.
So why do you think the average does not match your experience?
Dr. Rapp, so Texas is large and there's a lot of differences in temperature across the state.
Yes.
And Texas has extreme seasons. In the summer, I'm not thinking about an average of 65 degrees.
Right. Sometimes an average oversimplifies complex data. We're a big state with a lot of different temperatures. For some of us, it's over 100, and for some of us, it could be in the 80s or it could be cooler. And so an average could make it seem so much simpler than it is. Has anyone heard of averages being used for school funding?
I have.
What have you heard?
I heard that we get an average of $15,000 per student.
$15,000 per student. Wow. Yes, what have you heard?
That's not what I heard. I heard the students receive on average $10,800 per student.
You know what? You are both correct. How can that be? That is a great question. Well, let's talk about why these averages are a problem. Both of those averages have been published by the Texas Education Agency in the past in their annual report. So let's take a look at this graph here on the screen. Can everybody see that graph okay? Okay, perfect. So this graph shows us where they got the average of $14,928 per student. So this average includes what we talk a lot about with school funding in Lewisville ISD, which is the basic allotment, which is $6,160, and that is characterized by this section in our graph right here that contributes to this $10,000 figure. But class, can you see the amount in orange on this graph? Yeah. So that is saying that $1,699 per student contributes to that $14,000 average. But that orange section is bond funds. Are we allowed to use bond funds for daily operations of the district? No, we are not. So that means that that $14,000 figure includes money that we cannot use in the district every single day for daily operations and every single student. In fact, when we talk about specialized amounts per student, the most recent TEA report looks a little bit different. Doesn't this look different than that last graph we just looked at? This is very different, but you still see this bar graph right here. Well, this time, the bar graph is now saying schools receive on average $10,800 per student. But this bar graph includes something called Tier 1 allotments and Tier 2. These Tier 1 allotments include the basic allotment. What's the basic allotment again? How much is that?
$6,160.
Thank you all so much for listening so well in class. This also includes specialized allotments. For instance, a small and mid-sized allotment is what's included. Well, is Lewisville ISD a small or mid-sized district? No, we're a large district, so Lewisville ISD does not qualify for this money that is contributing to that $10,800 average. There's also the money that's sent to the teacher retirement system. Does anybody know what that would be on the screen that you see here?
Is that TRS on behalf?
Yes, right here. That is money that's going straight to the teacher retirement system. And so those funds flow straight through our district to teacher retirement. And that is part of what is adding to that $10,800 average.
Now, Dr. Rapp, are we able to use those funds in daily operations?
We cannot use that money on any daily operations of the school district. So let's talk a little bit more about these Tier 1 specialized allotments, okay? And how did they put these allotments together to get to an average? Not every student, as you said, qualifies for every Tier 1 allotment. So these are the actual numbers representing our school district. We see the basic allotment that you just told me at $6,160. But look at this allotment here. This is for our special education students. We receive $12,506 for every special education student.
But not every student benefits from specialized allotments?
That's right. You have to qualify in order for these funds to be used on your services. For instance, we do not have students served in our pre-K programs also served in our CTE programs. Now, if you have a student who is served in special education and is also served in our bilingual program, they may qualify for both of those allotments. And so if you average and you include all of these amounts, then you would say that we have more that would represent student funding, but not every student benefits from every one of those amounts.
So how much do we have for each student in Lewisville ISD?
That is a great question. And it's so important that we don't use averages in order to say what every student gets. What we know is that every student in Lewisville ISD gets the basic allotment of $6,160. And if you have a specialized allotment where you are not spending more than that allotment already as a district, some of those funds could also be added to the basic allotment. And we know also that we spend more in many of these allotments than what we receive from the state. So when you take the amount per allotment that we would have to be able to spend and you add that to the basic allotment, you could get $8,504 per student in Lewisville ISD. And then we have $380 per student for the golden and copper pennies. So that's a total of $8,884 per student. Yes, what does that make you think of?
Dr. Rapp, based on that, Lewisville ISD gets about $2,000 less than the state says we get?
That's exactly right, because the state's representing with averages, and they're saying on average $10,800, we're operating with well less than $10,800 when we look at these allotments. Yes.
So to average or not to average when it comes to school funding?
That really is the question.
School finance is far more complicated than just an average.
That is exactly right. You cannot average school funding in a big state like Texas. What matters to our students, our schools, and our staff and our communities is our public education. So let's fix what needs to be fixed, and that's the basic allotment. Let's invest in all Texas students and in all schools and invest in Texas. Good job, class. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye, Dr. Rapp.
Bye, everybody. Remember about averages.